You've seen Johnny's OP video and Kelly's Overpowered video, and now we are about to give you another Overpowered video. So OP! In this video we'll be looking at the top 10 overpowered X-Men that need to be stopped, which I'm super excited to be sharing with you as I am a huge X-Men fan. Sadly, I am not wearing an X-Men shirt today. Just imagine this Wonder Woman shirt is like a 90s X-Men symbol. And if you love the X-Men as much as I do, shout out that love in the comments by letting me know who you think the strongest, most overpowered X-Men is. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Okay, let's get counting. Number 10. Magik. Ilyana Rasputina is Colossus's younger sister. She originally joined the X-Men with some basic teleportation powers. At a young age she was kidnapped and taken to Limbo by Belasco. She also got some sweet magical training. Belasco put part of her soul in a bloodstone and told her that he loved her while she was 6 years old. Yeah, it's creepy. Creepy. And while she was in there, she was also beaten, and it wasn't until her rescue by Shadow and Cat, and later her continued training under Belasco, that granted her the power to overtake her kidnapper and become the Queen of Limbo, and eventually leave this reality she was trapped in. Upon her return to the X-Men, she was souped on Magik, had her teleportation powers, and was also armed with her weapon, Soul Sword. She kind of gave me some Leona vibes from League of Legends, which just adds to her powerful presence in my mind. Number 9. Colossus. That's right, Magik's big bro, Pyotr Rasputin, is also on this list. Given the codename Colossus, after agreeing to attend Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, he is able to change his skin to armor at will. His armor is durable, strong, and almost impenetrable. To give you an idea of just how tough Colossus is, I will point you to a moment where he took on the Juggernaut. Yeah, that's right. While his armored skin is susceptible to damage from adamantium and vibranium, his armor is otherwise impenetrable. And you all saw how much of a beating he took in the first Deadpool movie when he took on Angel. Oddly enough, the Deadpool version of Colossus is more accurate than the X-Men film version of him. I guess we'll see if Colossus gets to remain as overpowered and Russian in the MCU. But hopefully we will be safe from American Colossus, cause that's a version that maybe needs to be stopped. Number 8. Archangel. One of the original founding members of the X-Men, Archangel, also known as Warren Worthington III, was first introduced in X-Men comics in the first issue of X-Men Volume 1, although at the time he went by the name Angel. This X-Men was born with actual wings, though his parents apparently did not notice the markings on his back that would lead to him growing wings later, and for the most part, he lived a normal life, somehow concealing his wings. Odd, right? At an early age, he became a vigilante hero, adopting the name Angel, and after joining the X-Men later changed his name to Archangel. Doesn't sound like he needs to be stopped, right? Well, think again. During the X-Factor series, he received a devastatingly overpowered upgrade when he became one of Apocalypse's horsemen. He grew biometallic wings that were retractable, razor sharp, and could fire neurotoxin feather darts. Ouch. Don't worry though, Archangel was stopped, in a sense, reverting to his former self after his biometallic wings molted. Yeah, because apparently metal feathers also molt. I don't know, who knew? Number 7. Storm. One of the most unique X-Men in terms of her origin story, Storm, also known as Aurora Monroe, was worshipped as a goddess when her powers first emerged, in contrast to most of her fellow X-Men who were, spurned for their abilities. While most of what we see in the comics and animated and live-action adaptations is Storm's abilities to influence only localized weather, when prompted, her powers can be as dramatic as her accent in the X-Men film series from the 2000s. Storm suffers from some intense claustrophobia stemming from childhood trauma, and it is this fear that has prompted her full potential to be unleashed. Look at X-Men Volume 1 Issue 147, where Aurora creates a severe storm that encompasses the whole Earth, threatening all of humanity, and being likened in the issue to the Phoenix. Adding Storm's powers into the mix in a world that is already suffering dramatically from global warming is next level risky. The world definitely doesn't need any more large scale natural disasters, thank you very much. Number 6. Cyclops. Often the leader of the X-Men team, Cyclops made this list less for his abilities and more for his sometimes questionable behavior and choices. He has some of the weirdest powers for someone who is an original member of the team. The ability to basically fire laser beams from his eyes. This power is so intense that it actually requires Cyclops, aka Scott Summers, to wear a visor in order to control his powers. Granted, apparently his eyelids are also strong enough to stop the lasers completely, which is weird, but hey, mutants, superheroes, comics. Moving past this ability, which can be very dangerous when left uncontrolled in and of itself, we also have to deal with the moral dilemmas created by some of Scott's actions. In Avengers vs. X-Men, his actions led to the return of the Phoenix Force and death of Charles Xavier by his own hand, after becoming full-on obsessed with the power of the Phoenix. Cyclops also tends to be loyal to his beliefs to a fault. In House of X, when steered towards Magneto's philosophies, we see him turn borderline villain, trying to forcefully separate mutant children from their non-mutant parents in an effort to protect them. Yuck. Number 5. Hope Summers. Not biologically related to Scott Summers. She's actually adopted into the Summers and Gray family. Hope has the potential to actually be the strongest X-Men out there, the most OP. She can duplicate other mutants' powers just by being near them. Similar to Rogue, but she doesn't actually need to make physical contact, and she doesn't drain them of life energy or their own powers while duplicating. However, it still makes her a formidable foe for any mutant. She can also take on a seemingly unlimited number of powers at a time, so if you team her up with a huge X-Men team, she would be pretty unstoppable. Combine this with the fact that she was raised by the badass Cable, and you have a next level X-Men on your hands. Not only this, but the Phoenix Force has always been fond of Hope. When Hope and the Phoenix Force merged, she became the White Phoenix, the only person who appeared to be able to not be driven mad by the Phoenix's power, and she was the only one strong enough to dispel its energy with the help of Scarlet Witch. That isn't overpowered. I don't know what is. Number 4. Wolverine. Is there such a thing as too much Wolverine? I'd like to say no, but at this point I'm starting to think there just might be. Wolverine is now seen as probably one of the most popular X-Men and superheroes of all time. He has even held Avenger status, making everyone obsess over the thought of perhaps getting to see him join the MCU in the Avengers Infinity War Endgame post-credits, which sadly for Wolverine fans did not happen. Wolverine, aka James Howlett, or better known as just Logan, boasts of a mutation involving retractable bone claws and regenerative healing abilities. After having adamantium added to his skeleton, he became even more powerful. He has had more thrown at him than most superheroes, and as a result, we have seen his powers expanded in the comics. He's also known to age slowly, one of the few characters where we actually address this issue of, like never seeming to age. At one point, he was even considered immortal, having a pact with Azrael, the Angel of Death, that if he could beat him in a fight after dying, he would get to be resurrected. In Old Man Logan, when he's actually considered to be weaker, he still manages to battle an alternate version of the Hulk. Granted, Logan really only needs to be stopped if you feel like you've had too much of him. Have you? Number 3. Rogue. With her power-stealing and life-draining abilities, Rogue, aka Anna Marie LeBeau, is one of the most insanely overpowered X-Men around. Considering she has also played the villain before, she might also be one to consider, putting a stop sign in front of. Like hold up. Before joining the X-Men, Rogue was a runaway who was taken in by Mystique and the Brotherhood of Mutants. She almost killed Miss Marvel, now known as Captain Marvel, by touching her. Rogue was used to temporarily taking mutants' powers and weakening them, but in Miss Marvel's case, she held on a little bit too long, stealing Carol Danvers' powers in a more permanent sense and leaving her in a coma. Rogue also accidentally absorbs her psyche without intending to. Her level of powers and lack of control are the most concerning. Though of course, in the X-Men Legacy series, Rogue gains full control of her abilities after Danger and Professor X were able to figure out how her abilities work and alter her mind to help her gain control, allowing her to kiss Gambit. I love those two together. Number 2. Professor X. What's more terrifying than a mutant who can read your mind and the minds of everyone else on the planet all at once at any distance? One who can also influence your mind, possibly without you knowing. Hence why Professor Charles Xavier makes number 2 on the list. Granted, Professor X usually uses his abilities for good, but as we see in the film Logan, even the best intentions may not protect those you love from the darker sides of one's powers. In Logan, we see an aged Professor X masterfully played by the only Professor X in my mind, Sir Patrick Stewart. This version of Charles is suffering from a degenerative brain disease that affects his memories, causes seizures, and causes him to lose control of his powers as well. And we learn that the worst has happened. He has supposedly, accidentally, used his powers to kill members of the X-Men and hurt countless numbers of people as well. Yikes. Poor Patrick Stewart. Number 1. Jean Grey. The only person unchained who could be scarier than Professor X Unchained would be Jean Grey, especially when under the influence of the Phoenix Force. You may be thinking at this point that the Phoenix Force is the real star of this list, and hey, you may be right. I definitely have a Phoenix obsession of my own. However, the fact remains that what the Phoenix Force really gives you is access to your full potential. And this is terrifying with Jean because her full potential is insane. Granted, originally in the comics, Phoenix was a separate entity that existed while Jean was chilling and healing in a cocoon under the ocean, but in the films and animated series, Phoenix has been presented as a melding of minds, which is also how it has been explained in later comics like with the Phoenix 5. Jean is one of the strongest X-Men ever, a stronger telepath than Charles Xavier. While her influence over a mind may not be as finessed or as subtle as his, she could definitely control your mind in a similar way. The only difference is you would probably know she was doing it as opposed to maybe thinking the actions were of your own volition. While both these scenarios are equally terrifying, the idea of knowing you have no control over your actions while trying to fight back and losing is, in my mind, even more terrifying. Thanks for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed counting down with me. There are so many overpowered X-Men that did not make the cut, but that I really wanted to include, so if you want a part 2 of this list, be sure to let us know. I really wanted to include Sunspot on here. He actually refers to himself as the strongest X-Men in the No Surrender storyline. Fun fact. Until we meet again, remember to share, like, subscribe, and comment, as I do love reading your comments. This is Top 10 Nerd, and I'm Amanda McKnight. Till next vid, you stay nerdy, YouTube.